It started with a quiet morning in the Parker family's small kitchen. The smell of toast was in the air, and sunlight slipped through the blinds, making the dust in the air look like gold. Emily was leaning against the counter, absent-mindedly scrolling on her phone when she heard the cough. Not an everyday cough. This one came from her little brother, Liam, in the next room. It was deep, rough, like it took more from him than it ever should. Liam was just 9 years old, but lately it felt like his energy had been fading. Emily had watched him go from running circles around the backyard to struggling to make it up the stairs. Their parents tried to hide their worrying, but you can't really hide fear in a house that small. A few weeks later, the family got answers, and they were the kind of answers no one wants. Liam had a rare genetic condition, the kind that doesn't have an over-the-counter cure. The kind that comes with a big, ugly price tag for treatment. When they revealed the cost, it was the kind of number that makes your heart sink. Even with insurance, the bills would crush them. Emily was 16. She didn't have savings or a big job. She didn't have rich uncles or a secret trust fund, but what she did have was stubbornness. The kind where, once she decided something, you'd have a hard time prying it from her grip. And right there, at that kitchen table, she decided she was going to help her brother somehow. At first, no one took her too seriously. "It's a sweet idea," her mom told her, "but it's not your responsibility to raise that kind of money." Emily just nodded. Outwardly, she let the conversation drop. But in her head, a plan was already forming. She started small. She sold some paintings and sketches she'd been working on, posted about it on Instagram, wrote a caption about Liam, about what was happening. That first post got shared, then reshared. Friends sent her messages, people she hadn't talked to in years, asking how they could help. She set up a small fundraiser online, just hoping maybe she could cover a few smaller bills. But the story started to spread further than she imagined. A local news page shared it. Then a teacher at her school told the principal, and soon the whole student body knew. They held a bake sale, then a car wash. She even convinced the coffee shop down the street to let her play her guitar there on weekends for tips. Every dollar went into a jar labeled for Liam. The thing about raising money like this is it's exhausting. There were days she came home from school, went straight to her part-time shift at the diner, and didn't get done until 11 p.m. And instead of sleeping, she'd be at the dining room table, sending thank you messages to strangers who had donated $5, $10, sometimes $100. There were moments she thought about stopping. Nights when it felt ridiculous to believe a teenager could make a dent in such a massive goal. But then she'd hear Liam laugh from down the hall, even through the pain and fatigue, and it would light that fire again. Stopping was never really an option. Months rolled by. The jar turned into a bank account. The bank account started to actually look like it could change something. And then one day, she hit submit on withdrawing the money for the treatment deposit. The number staring back at her was unreal, more than she ever thought she could pull together when this started. The day Liam began treatment, the whole family was there. He was nervous, so was Emily, but there was also this quiet sense of victory in the air. Not joy exactly, not yet, but the relief of having made it this far. Emily sat with him through the first several sessions. She told him stories, made him laugh, reminded him this was just another step toward getting his strength back. It wasn't all smooth sailing after that. There were setbacks and days when the medicine hit him hard. Days when progress felt painfully slow, but the treatment was working. Slowly, Liam's color came back, the cough faded. One afternoon in early spring, Emily came home to find him in the yard, barefoot in the grass, kicking a soccer ball. It stopped her in her tracks. Just a few months earlier, walking around the house had been a challenge for him. Now he was beaming, sweaty, out of breath, but the good kind of out of breath. The fundraiser wasn't just about money. It was a chain reaction of kindness, set off by one determined girl who refused to just sit by. Neighbors, classmates, people on the other side of the country, all of them had chipped in, shared a post, showed up to an event. Without that, none of this would have been possible. When people later asked Emily how she managed it, she didn't have a polished answer. She'd shrug and say, "I couldn't fix his illness myself. But I could do something, and that something had turned into everything." Even now, thinking back, she doesn't see herself as some hero. She was just a sister who wanted her brother to have a chance, but for Liam, it meant the world. And in the quiet of that same kitchen where it all began, there's still a jar on the counter. Not because they need it anymore, but because people still drop a couple of dollars in, knowing it'll go to the next family who's fighting their own uphill battle. Emily says that's the part she's keeping forever, the reminder that sometimes the worst moments in life can pull the best pieces of humanity into the light.